The beginning of the end has finally arrived. Week 7, Day 6, the last day of cross-conference play before we enter the final stretch. Before playoffs themselves, the LPL is getting closer and closer to its summer terminus, and everyone in the Xi'an Arena is just as excited. You can see lots of Xie fans as it is his birthday in that venue. So, of course, plenty of reason for that team to celebrate. Of course, their opponents, on the other hand, Vici will be filing in shortly thereafter behind them as Mystic and the crew get ready to try to claim the win. Even Xie's name drawn on the Summoner's Rift board as he knows it's his time to shine. It's his time to set the stage and set the show against Vici Gaming. That said, it's still going to be quite the challenge as Vici try to bring it back. But welcome, everyone. My name is Dom. Joining me here on the desk is Barento Raz Mohammed. Got any birthday wishes for Xie, Raz?
Happy birthday.
It's good. Quick.
I didn't have a card ready. I don't know what I don't know what to say. I didn't realize.
It caught us both a little bit by surprise there. But hey, happy birthday, Xie. Of course, we'll be keeping an eye on your performance later on. Before we get into that, though, let's take a look at the standings because there's a lot of stuff to shake out after yesterday's match of the week between IG and Rogue Warriors.
Yeah, so that one was fun. IG ended up taking that one, so they're 12-1 in series, so that's great for them. One series ahead of RNG. Something that happened yesterday as well, Suning Gaming versus TOP, 3-game series. TOP came out the better of it. 2 series ahead now of OMG and FPX, so their spot is a little bit more solidified, while Suning Gaming sweating a little bit more.
Yes, and absolutely. Suning, they missed out on playoffs by points last spring split, so this time around, they really want to take the win and lock that down. That said, BLG and LGD are hot on their heels, and again, in the West Conference, still only 3 games that separate between 2nd and 6th place. Of course, we'll get the chance to see one of our top-of-the-table teams play today when JD take on OMG a little bit later. But before that, we've got LGD versus EDG, and of course, Vici versus W.
A fun one, of course, LGD versus EDG. Every single time, post-2015 era, LGD would play up to EDG, taking it to 3-game series. So that one should be fun, especially in this split when LGD is finding a new foot forward. So a really good job from LGD so far, hunting for that 4th place spot. It would be incredible if they would take them down that trip. I
mean, we've been seeing, like you've said, good performances out of LGD, and EDG is on the back of the longest loss streak the organization has ever had. So maybe we've got ourselves a good game on our hands. I mean, it looks to be something to watch forward after our first match, though, which is Vici versus WE. Again, you just saw that in the Xi'an Arena. And again, we got to keep talking about this. WE, for those of you who don't know, this is the same team that went to World Semifinals. Since then, they've had a few change-ups behind the scene. We've got to wonder what's going on with them because they are 2-10. But despite that bad performance, they've still had a few shining lights on the team who have been able to put out some good numbers.
That's the thing, because they would rely on that. Remember, you alluded to it, bringing in a new coaching staff of Mokuza, and also in the coaching staff, losing Hoon as well to Vici later on. Fun fact, now Hoon's moving from Vici, moving there. So you can see there's a lot of shifting from WE's point of view. 10-man roster now for the squad. You talked about shining light. In spring split, it was Xie. Xie went off massively, had the split of his career. It was unfortunate he didn't get the MVP because Rookie was playing on top of his game as well. But it really felt like he deserved it, pushed them to playoff time. This time around, it doesn't even seem like they're going to be getting to that road again. They're on the bottom of the bracket of the Western Conference. But it's Mystic this time.
Yeah.
So Mystic, when he finally got on stage because he saw Gentle come in first, Imp, then Mystic, he really fit in well with the style because team kill participation for Team WE showcased that they needed to be a team fighting team. He was a major reason why they were winning a lot of their team fights, not the games. You could tell that it's unfortunate for him. Damage percentage first, damage per minute off the charts, and he's been performing in major team fights, but unfortunately it just comes down to closing the game, and this team, it's a team problem.
And this is where we look to WE to protect Mystic in these massive team fights. As here are just a few examples of Mystic playing out of his mind on late game carries, and even earlier on a next fight that you're going to see on a mid game carry on something like Ezreal, as this Ashe absolutely pops off.
So it really doesn't matter what champion he comes out with at the end of the day. With the Orianna early on in the split, Ashe that he finally got a chance to play, and his tried and true namesake Mystic shots coming through from the Ezreal. So it's fun that we get to see Mystic showcase his strength. It's unfortunate at the setting, but if they find victories here today, It's going to be based off the team fight prowess of Mystic to make plays like this happen.
And of course, again, we have to look to the team of WE to keep that carry alive, because it's no longer just a single carry meta. We've seen how important the mid jungle is in unlocking and roaming and affecting those side lanes. And I think that's where we can draw a good contrast with Vici Gaming, because right now the mid jungle are two of the only returning members from Vici. I mean, if you count in Martin and maybe Audi from the beginning of the split. Look, there's a lot going on with that Vici roster, so I'll just open it to you. What do you want to look at first with Vici Gaming? Because there's a lot.
So first and foremost, a lot of people won't see what changes happen behind the scene, because Coach Hoon coming from WE, moving over to Vici, and then now they're putting in Coach Rui, who was with the team in the LSPL. So for them, there really is confusion in the roster because they don't know what success looks like for the squad. So bringing back Martin, something that I think should be the kickoff point from this one. Martin came into the split with them when they were coming from the LSPL here. He's a returning member. He was a strong team fighter when they were there in the LSPL, but when he came into the split here, incredibly weak laner, and then his team fighting wasn't even making up for it. So that was really a struggle for the team. And so now a good example of the shifts happening is that they're now trying to make use of their developmental squad. So remember, Vici has a sister team called Unlimited Potential in the LDL. We saw Yuguan play earlier on in the split when he went up against Rogue Warriors. Now you're seeing Shintai today, the support player coming in for Caveman. So they're really throwing everything at the board and seeing if it works. This is a good step because at the very least, Unlimited Potential was having a successful split based off their strong support plays.
And it was that support top lane. Yuguan, as you said, already coming into Vici Gaming, also helping out with that. But we just talked about WE seeing success off of Mystic and playing a team fight style where they're all grouped up and Mystic is able to pop off. If we can see Vici doing the same thing with their own team fight AD carry of Martin making a return, perhaps we're going to see, and I hesitate to say this, in the game with Swift and Coco, a passive early mid game and scaling until late game team fights?
Oh, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
That's never. A fun thing about Swift and Coco is that early game through mid lane jungle is going to be aggressive. A lot of impact from that point. Swift is a jungler that you have to rally around him no matter the team he goes on, because he will look to play aggressively, invade quite frequently, looking towards the team that he's going up against, Team WE.
Yeah, it's 957, Kandi, Xie, Mystic, and Missing making his return for the massive bottom lane roster of Team WE as they try to take a win in front of the home crowd once again.
Yeah, of course, remember, birthday boy on the squad as well. So WE going to, at the very least, look for their third victory of the split.
Of course, that's Xie front and center, trying to take that victory on this day. Their opponents on the other side, the team trying to bring them down. It's Vici Gaming, it's Audi, Swift, Coco, Martin, and Shintai.
And so, to hit your point, what team identity are we looking for in the squad? Early game or late game? Martin and Shintai are strong team fighters if they are to play their style. But I think they're going to try and utilize the bridge of the top side of the map, Audi, Swift, and Coco, to make it so they have a strong later game. So I think they're trying to basically throw everything into the board and see if it all works together. If that late game insurance is necessary, do not expect them to be playing to the bottom lane in this squad.
We'll have to see if WE opt for a similar strategy. Kandi has been playing well with Xie, but perhaps a bit of a disconnect between Kandi's jungle phase and the bottom side of the map. Mystic and 694 and Missing haven't really gotten a chance to see too much of Kandi, so even if Swift decides to affect that side of the map, that could be a bit of a risky avenue. But then again, as you're saying, this is Swift. This is the guy who wants to aggressively invade into the jungle, take your camps, and duel you. He'll just need the backup of Coco and Audi to follow up.
And that's where the match really comes into play. A lot of it's going to be coming off of jungle mid lane.
Yeah.
And sure, it may then leak on towards the bottom lane, but for the start, Swift and Kandi will really be dueling it out so their mid lane's going to actually get a chance to roam. Now, Xie has still been having a great split. So for WE, unleashing Xie so he can look towards bottom lane a little bit more heavily, or try, and it depends on if the Kled comes through, Kled or Gnar for 957, then you can play towards that one, but unlocking mid lane is incredibly crucial. For WE, a challenge for them in this series is to start closing out games, because I think they're heavy favorites in this set, even though both squads are 7th place. They've been getting their ducks in a row recently, and even though they lost to BLJ in the most recent set, it should have been 2-0. It just comes down to the same issue of, you know, an issue they had in spring playoffs when they're up against RNG, of being able to close out games. they would have the leads, and then from that point forward, be able to drop them in the team fights that they should be known for. So for WE, when they get to the later game stages of the match, be able to close them out, proper control wards. Missing should be on the front with Condi to be able to set that up.
And we'll absolutely be keeping our eye on that. Of course, WE, their only wins have been against OMG and Suning. And like you said, of those remaining 10 losses, 5 of them have gone to 3 games.
Yep.
So they've had the chance. They've had the opportunity going the distance. They just... something isn't there. Some sort of, is it decisiveness? Is it...
Decisiveness would be a good start to this, because when you lose series like that so consistently, and we've heard this from BLG as a squad that's also had the same struggles, it really starts to tear at you. Tear the team apart in a sense. Confidence can wane if you start losing series like that, because it really digs at you when you're playing in your home venue. You lose when you feel like you should have won, and multiple times WE were in that position where they should have won these games. And so for WE, coming back into it, taking in what you've gotten from practice, having the same confidence that you had from the previous week so it doesn't wane, is incredibly crucial, because in week 7 it starts to really tear at you.
Yeah, and that confidence is something that Vici are also going to be taking to heart here. Swift and Snow are about to share their thoughts on what they think about Vici's current performance.
그냥 전체적으로 일단 계속 패배가 반복되다 보니 다들 자신감이 없는 게 큰 것 같긴 하고, 그리고 뭐 연습을 게을리 한다고 생각 안 하는데 그냥 그런 효과가 잘 안 나타나는 것 같아요.
And Swift, as you just heard, talking about that confidence. It is so important, but Vici, they are 1-11 right now. It's going to take some mega mental fortitude to try and recover.
And they've been talking about their scrim setting a little bit too. A lot of it, remember the last series that they've had when they were going up against FPX in the cross conference. They said they had a positive scrim rate versus them. That was the discussion that came in, so they should have been confident. Remember, FPX took that series, so a lot of frustration pent up there that their scrim results aren't showcasing to the audience, that they're just losing repeatedly, and they feel like they're better than what they're showing.
And we have to wonder where that disconnect is for Vici as well. Is it just in the new players? Is it in the communication of the squad? Perhaps just getting more experience for this roster? Because again, Vici as a franchise team will be returning back into the LPL. No chance of getting disqualified out of the LPL this time. As you can see, all of the fan signs for Vici and WE in the crowd. Just a moment ago, you got to see the WE Wei Xiao sign as he gets a chance to join the coaching organization of Team WE. So again, this is a momentum setter for these teams. This is about pride and growth.
And to your point on that as well, refreshing mentality, bringing in new perspective is incredibly crucial. So even if we don't see too much of the effects of Wei Xiao, the team will eventually do so, just based off of the new vibe that he brings to the team in a practice setting. So for WE and Vici here today, we'll have to see. It might go the distance, but for them, the lesson's what's important of what they get in game 1.
We'll absolutely see those lessons on stage right now as we get into pick and ban. Already, we've got ourselves Audi's Darius banned away super early on. Of course, he's gotten pretty high priority on the pick list for Vici. We know he's a very mechanically talented top laner. And getting a champion like Darius is very easy for him to snowball, but WE, they're already taking themselves a bit of a counter pick by also locking down the Trundle, not only with the Pillar, but more importantly, the Subjugate.
And they also just completely zeroed in on Swift's champion pool. So, of course, the Taliyah, you'd expect that to be banned regardless, but that's a blue side ban instead of a red side ban. It's just Condi saying that I don't want to pick it up, and I don't want to see it in Swift's court because he's going to pick it up himself, so he can get challenge in the jungle. And then taking away the Camille as well protects Mystic, so he doesn't get zeroed in on in these team fights. Also denies these Galio compositions, and for the most part makes it so Coco, or at least Swift, doesn't have the early impact that he would want to.
Well, already we're seeing Sintai on his first LPL game, his LPL debut on Rakan, a massive all-in engaged support laner. I'm looking at the jungle now for Swift as he picks up his signature Nidalee here. 100% win rate every single time that champion's been played.
The only reason why you would pick it up is that you would want to hold the rest for counter picks. So it's nice to see Swift saying, give me my jungle. I'll do a lot of work with this one. For you guys, I'll just hold your pick for counter. So we'll get to see what our first pick is. I want to say Xayah is incredibly important. Don't believe WE will pick that up alone without the Rakan. We'll see what the response is here.
Oh, that's interesting. Leona is the answer from Missing in the bottom lane. You can see WE are sitting there with half a smile on their face. That crowd control is a great way to keep that Nidalee locked into place. And if you pair that Daylight passive along with Illusion, that's a lot of damage.
It's the flash engage, ultimately, what we're seeing from both times. Specifically from Sentai getting the Rakan, easy engage if they see a mistake being made from WE. And the Leona as well, recognizing that an incredibly squishy composition from Vici, just assuming that Audi, even if Audi goes towards the tank, Rakan, easy to blow up. So bring out the Leona. If you see a mistake being made, send the ulti across. So both teams finding that pick potential immediately.
That's the Rise pickup now for Coco, likely, as Swift will be buddy-buddy with him in the jungle, trying to invade and unlock. That means we get to see Xie look for that counter pick. We still haven't seen any of those top laners just yet, as 957 versus Audi looks to be a very exciting matchup on that side of the map. But Leona, it's been a while since we've seen one of them in the LPL, but as you can see, that already was not the first. We had 3 prior. So now Vici are going to get the chance to start paring down some more of 957 and Xie's pool.
The next ban should be an Orianna. Remember that while the Lucian pick is up and available, bringing in the extra shield always helps out Illusion. And also, Orianna does well versus the Nidalee and Rise. Rise specifically in lane, as the game goes on, Nidalee finds difficulty impacting fights when an Orianna's ball is on the field. So, in this case, incredibly important, just for Vici to ban out the Orianna. Makes sense that W would ban out the Xayah.
We're still looking to see what Martin will get the chance to take into the Illusion Leona. Of course, the Kog'Maw was hovered earlier, but something tells me you do not want to take a Kog'Maw into a Illusion Leona lane. It's been a while since we've seen one of those, and I distinctly remember it not going well for the Kog'Maw. Certainly you've got the scale potential, but low mobility is absolutely going to hurt. We do actually now see the Zoe ban away. It might be Martin looking to take that Orianna instead, putting Audi on an AD top laner, but that does give counterpick to 957.
It's definitely been a long time since we've seen Martin in champion pool, so he could have picked up a few mages in this time. But there is so much AP on this composition as is with the Nidalee and Rise that it shouldn't be the case. Martin, even with going the Kog'Maw, would be too much AP from that end, so I would expect him to lock in something a little bit more AD heavy. Ezreal makes sense in this case.
He's giving it the old hover right now as he looks for something with a bit of disengage and ability to keep itself protected against an incoming Leona Lucian, because that is a terrifying gank setup with the Trundle Leona Lucian.
Now the risk here is, while Ezreal makes sense, the composition needs an engage force, something that can walk forward and allow Swift to do his job. Technically, you could say Swift would go around the Rise lane a little bit more heavily, but that's a counter pick matchup, or at least that's a blind pick matchup. So they don't know what they're going up against, and if WE picks up a Cassiopeia, an Orianna, something that can match very heavily versus Coco in lane, then Vici would have a lot to worry about.
And looking at those champions now from Xie, as Ornn was just the lock-in for Team WE, they have got Engage out the wazoo, and they've set it up so that Xie can Mystic can skate around the side of that fight on the Lucian. Now they just need Xie on some sort of AP damage dealer to supplement that. The Cassiopeia is currently being looked at. That would follow up really nicely.
Yep, they will lock it in. Perfect. So this is the second Cassiopeia we've seen specifically this week between him and Duanbe. I like it simply because it pairs up very well with the Trundle pillar. So it makes when you have a lead, the siege potential you have is super easy to actually make. It makes it so Mystic can walk up much more aggressively, even as a mid-range AD carry in this front. So for Vici Gaming, how do you attack the Cassiopeia with just the Rise pick? You would need something far more aggressive, so it's on Audi's last pick here.
And that's the Jarvan lock-in for Audi in the top lane. Very strong AD and absolutely massive burst if he decides to go for that AD burst style, as Vici are going to be trying to take this game 1 against Team WE. Audi pulling out the signature Jarvan.
And it's going to make it so he's the early bridge. Look at the composition from Vici as is. So Nidalee, Jarvan, incredibly aggressive early on. You can throw in the Rise as well because it has the setup, but double tier composition from Vici means that it will scale well. It will just need time. So Vici will need time, and hopefully the Jarvan and Nidalee will be able to give it to them. For WE's composition, stock standard, play around Xie's Cassiopeia. We saw this in playoffs, honestly. Xie did masterfully on it. It was not a win. They didn't win that series, but they were going up against RNG, the eventual champions and MSI champions. So in that setting, give him the damn Cassiopeia, give him the snake and see how it goes.
Absolutely playing around that massive carry as WE set themselves up with a very strong composition. Vici try to answer it with some signature picks of their own that engage from Audi to try to round things out. That being said, Audi not exactly known for his map awareness and team fight positioning. So already you can see Swift and Coco leaning over and like, you're gonna team fight when we team fight, right? And Audi's like, oh yeah, sure, of course, I'll be there. And they're like, really? We're gonna group up as 5 and you're gonna join in, right? He's like, yeah, I'll be there.
Look, there's a lot to look at here. I mean, you're right, a lot of his plays throughout the entire season, even taking in how he's played with EDG.
Yeah.
Question marks about, sure, he's a strong player. Solo queue, incredible. Bring him onto a stage, and he has great mechanics, as you've mentioned, but issues in terms of communicating with your squad hasn't been fixed. So picking up the Jarvan has great escape in lane. So I mean, if he's going up against a Trundle and Ornn in the top side, if he ever gets ganked repeatedly, at least he has the escape potential. But it depends on how he plays out the lane, because oftentimes he'll expend the Q or E, just try and walk up and push aggressively. He will need the Nidalee to do this time.
And that's going to require a lot of teamwork between Swift and Audi. Of course, we've loaded onto the Rift. It's game 1 in Xi'an of WE versus Vici. Now, I feel like that's just getting unfair when you've got a drum in your own. Well, I guess it is WE's home stadium.
Yeah.
If you had to choose between a drum and a moon.
They have flags. You gotta relax with the moon. They're waving a flag.
It's the coolest thing. RNG has a moon in their stadium.
That's how they're so strong. They're werewolves.
And by putting up a synthetic moon, just like Dragon Ball Z, they get stronger all of the time.
I said they're werewolves, not monkeys.
I wouldn't put it past them, but taking a look at these summoners, everything looks fairly standard. We do see Airy out of Shintai, Phase Rush out of Coco. Again, that standard Electrocute on Swift's Nidalee. He wants to hit fast and hit hard.
One thing to point out here is that Shintai going on to Airy, as you've mentioned, but also he got the early control ward. Actually, I wonder if he did, because he did clear it out. I guess he didn't get the experience off it. Who cleared it? Was it the Nidalee who cleared out the control ward? Either way, one of these guys are going to get an early leveling on that one. I'm sad that it wasn't Shintai who got that, because if he got the early level 2 based off the early ward alone, then this wouldn't have happened.
Already Missing and Mystic are trying to take control as that Daylight passive trades just a bit of damage back onto Martin. And Swift is just racing across the map as quick as he can. Looks like Condi going to go for a full clear as he went Blue, Gromp into Wolves. And that top side of the map will be completely empty. Already Audi is starting to push in, so it looks like WE are well aware of what Swift's common agenda is on this Nidalee. Whoops.
So Swift feels like he's gotten completely red, which is unfortunate because they expended the early red trinket to clear his speed time where he was going. So Swift going topside, he's like, wait a minute, you cleared your entire jungle, you didn't even know where I started.
Yeah.
So from Swift's point of view, it's unfortunate, but he's gonna be in a just full farm mode. He should take his Krugs topside and get an experience advantage.
Certainly should be trying to get towards that, as Condi did go to double buffs and is now invading onto the opposite side. So Condi might be the ones who gets a little bit of an experience advantage over Swift if he returns to his own Raptors and Krugs. But that clear speed on Nidalee is so fast, especially with double buff. Barely level 3 and already he is racing across the map.
Just depends on how Condi ends up using his time here. Because to your point, yeah, he's got an extra Gromp to his name. But then does he take his own Krugs? Doesn't seem like that's the case. In fact, pressuring bottom lane, he shouldn't be a dive.
Yeah, the wave crashes in. They're going to look for Martin. He arcane shifts back and flashes away from under the turret. Shintai goes low. Missing eats a turret shot. And they decide to back away from this minion wave. Still, Shintai is very low health as Condi decides to back away, Misting with the flash and ignite, perhaps just trying to flex on Martin and remind him why he was removed from Vici in the first place. But Swift is looking for a counterplay, knock up onto 957 as the spear hits a minion. 957 even stepping around the trap, flashes under the turret. Swift looks for another, but 957 casually walks away.
Just a very ambitious dive in the bottom lane from WE. Bringing in 3 members, sure, but Martin and Sintai did not lose any DPS. They didn't get heavily out-traded in that situation. So they were just an Ezreal who had, you know, summoners, his E.
Oh,
Here we go.
once again, that Zenith Blade will land. Grand Entrance trading back onto Missing. And like you said, the trade not quite working out in Mystic and Missing's favor, though it is double Dorian shield from the 2, so they should get some regeneration.
Most important part is that Martin and Sintai doesn't have any mana here. So in this case, Mystic and Missing, based off the repeated engages, are getting a lot out of it just based off mana alone.
Look at that, teleport coming down.
Wow.
It's Coco, and he actually sees the Trundle there. Grand Entrance, they're targeting onto the Leona, but no, it's Mystic who gets first blood, and they follow it up with a double as Coco goes down, splitting that gold back over to Kandi.
Wow, I'm surprised he didn't cancel it, seeing Kandi come through behind. They expected it to just be a 3-on-2, but he decided that he would be fine regardless. Wrong choice, obviously, and he's going to pay massively off of it. Doesn't have teleport here now anymore, obviously, so he's going to have to walk back to an experience disadvantage in the mid lane.
Yeah, Xie already pushing that wave in. Like you said, 14 CS ahead as that wave gets cleared out. And we just see the teleport in from Coco. He wanted it, but wasn't quite worth it.
He expected more damage coming out of the Ezreal and support from that end. Issue was they didn't have mana, as we mentioned earlier, so there was not going to be real follow-up for Martin. He's going to walk up slowly rather than using his E. So in that situation, yeah, a little bit rough, Coco. I like the idea, but execution should have canceled a little early.
And take a look at Martin's itemization choice after that. Of course, he did get that assist, and he has been going close to even in CS in that lane. Goes for the Sheen first before Tier. He wants to try to damage back against Mystic and Missing, but look at how Mystic itemized on the other side. Bilgewater Cutlass, that's got a Vamp Scepter in it. Mystic should be just fine getting health back.
It just means that he's not going to be completely far behind. We've been seeing more and more Ezreals actually go this route. Saw it in Steel back in the ULCS a little earlier on. And so it just means that if you're ahead, you actually can output more damage. If you're behind, you're not going to fall that far behind in trades. So it's smart. It just means that you're going to be a little bit slower in your tier build.
Now we see Kandi looking for a gank on the top side of the map. He already knows things on the bottom half are going well as Audi drops a control word and steps forward, but this wave is pushing in and getting further and further away from Kandi. This is a narrow window for him to work with as 957 is trying to get some form of harass. Swift is just farming in the meanwhile.
The success rate of this topside gank onto Audi has always worked here. Audi's been susceptible to these ganks, so it makes sense for Kandi to try and hunt for it.
Oh, that's another Zenith Blade landing onto Shintai. Missing, forcing that battle dance away as Martin steps in. That's the Sheen proc.
That's what you like to see from Martin. He's been passive throughout his career, but that was a good step forward. Remember, this wave is pretty poor for him, so using his E is a risk. Because Leona does want to actually look for an engage where the wave is at, so it's going to be a point where Martin and Shintai want to push out. He's alone in this instance, so Rakan did base.
That will deny just a bit, as now Xie will pick up that blue buff. Swift passes his own over to Coco.
There we have it. And honestly, at this point, Swift's done a good enough job at creating the experience advantage between him and Kandi. He wants to actually make it worthwhile, so having an early base, he's going to be doing that now. Get some AP underneath him. Great. Codex. So then now he can actually look to challenge the Raptors a little bit more aggressively. And it's nearing 8 minutes too, so with the stopwatches coming up from Coco, expect those two to be a lot more aggressive on towards Kandi's Raptors. Try and wrestle more experience out of them, because we need to be seeing a little bit more from Vici's mid lane jungle from this point forward.
Yeah. Like you said, the early game from Vici is coming out of that jungle, out of Swift and Audi, if he's able to get an advantage in the top lane. With the Phage first, he's 13 CS ahead. We haven't seen him get unlocked from that lane just yet, as 957 and Audi are just happily trading back and forth. But Xie is very successful at keeping Coco locked down in the mid lane, so we're looking to see who Swift decides to go towards.
Yeah, and historically it has been Coco. But know what's been happening recently. Bringing on Coco should have been the solution to a lot of the problems for Vici. Last we've seen him, sure he went to a trip to Turkey, but he's been the mid laner for Newbie.
Yeah.
An incredibly successful mid laner. We put him in the top 5 at the time of mids because he would showcase his Jace play. And a lot of it would just be based off of his early game pressure with Swift that would bring him the early game lead, but not
Now,
in this case.
What we're seeing right here is that Condi, on top of the ward, spotted Swift on the top Scuttle Crab. He turned towards the Ocean Dragon and took it. Swift and Coco disappeared from vision, so 957 used Call of the Forge God to clear out the minion wave as best he can and deny this push from Vici. Still, there's no sign from any assistance for 957, but he holds the turret and buys enough time for the Ocean Dragon and allows Mystic and Missing to take that first brick off of lane pressure alone on the bottom half of the map. Things are already looking a bit dire for Vici.
Yep, win-win-win.
Yep.
Ocean Dragon, bottom lane was already winning based off the skirmishes, and now with the tower being taken, Martin is going to have to just basically get a push off at any time he can. Mystic and Missing should just be leaving. Missing, I suppose, is going towards mid lane and helping out the lane. So this is WE just speeding up their composition now that the Blade of the Rune King got built up by Mystic.
He is absolutely ready to fight, and WE are immediately going into the lane swap. You can see Vici being forced to answer it as Martin and Shintai head straight up into the top lane to match that inevitable Lucian Leona push, and Missing doing a great job with that sweeper, clearing out all 3 wards and taking control over that top side pixel brush.
Value.
Wow, that is, he just walked in and completely cleared out all of the vision that Vici set up on that side of the map, once again making Martin and Shintai unsafe.
Yeah, I mean, they put all that vision to help out Audi.
Yeah.
They really put it in that one. Now, obviously, they're swapping lanes, so that should have been vision that they've rewarded for the bottom line. But it didn't happen, so the control wards didn't get placed in a new position. Getting cleared out means that that's added goal towards Missing. Missing is banking right now. And now they just reset vision topside and make it so Martin is now the victim once again underneath the tower. So there has to be a change in tone from Vici because 957 is eating all this pressure.
Or at least some way to change the pace of what WE are doing right now, because this is WE style. We've seen them take this style time and again. It's just calm, patient early game, playing smart. Again, this is a team with great fundamentals. They went to World Semifinals. 4 of these players challenged the current world champions. But there's just some disconnect right now in how they're closing fights. Now Swift is trying to upset that, but he seems to be struggling.
Disconnecting closing fights, but disconnecting these parts of the games as well, where Condi in the early portions of the game should be helping out to support a little bit more often. Now remember, back then they had Ben, so the communication was there, was sound between those two, but then now bringing in new supports, he's not been working nearly as much with them, nearly as good. So in this case, now Missing and Condi are in alignment here. Condi's always been working towards Missing in the first 11 minutes of this game, so it's already looking much better for this squad.
Now we do see WE trying to force a play. Teleport is just about ready for Audi. It's nearly off of cooldown as the Rift Herald is being started at 12 minutes in. I believe it just ticked over to completion. Mystic and Missing. They found Shintai, that's the Zenith Blade. He uses an early cleanse, but eats a Shield of Daybreak, dashes out of this. The Ignite ticking down, but Shintai should survive. No, dies!
Ouch.
Missing gets the last tick, and WE take the Rift Herald.
Italy wasn't close enough, so he couldn't close the distance, had to use his W, but that was cancelled too. Well played from Missing to lock him down. So Shintai, they were trying to at least see if they can challenge for the Rift Herald, lose the Rift Herald, and a support for that as well. Vici are completely far behind here.
Things looking real dire. Even 957 showing up into the mid lane. Not sure if 957 was spotted there, as I didn't see any red pings on top of him, but Missing. Whoa, the flash engage. Martin will use his own, but Mystic wants the kill. Stopwatch used. Missing is still right there as they juggle the aggro, but Shintai shows himself in time. Now, Rift Herald has been used in the mid lane. That's a full charge. Swift tries to defend the turret as Coco is trying to solo take blue, and Vici are falling apart as they scramble across the map. Rift Herald finishes off the turret with some help from the rest of WE and will finally go down before getting a second charge. But that's 2 outers, mid and bottom broken, and 3 kills to 1.
I don't understand what Vici's been doing so far. We've just seen 2 minutes of just pure miscommunication from them as a whole. Martin walking up, contesting a or at least the vision near the tri-bush. He gets completely taken down, or at least now he doesn't have stopwatch. Guess what happens now? WE should look to aim towards him.
Yeah.
Exactly, and that's an easy dive from that point forward. And then mid lane, what is Coco doing when they know that mid lane's getting pushed in? So no tower in the mid lane now. An extra wave you can push, so then you can set up for a top lane dive a lot more easily. WE has essentially the answers for how the next 5 minutes should go.
Now you can finally see Swift looking for a lane. But he's not really doing anything off the back of it, as that's not 1 but 2 wards. They engage onto Shintai, but there goes the solar flare. Swift goes in, but they've already killed the support. Martin looks to step forward, but remember, no flash, no stopwatch. Missing steps back up. He goes real low before using a stopwatch. 957 joins in. No way, finally! Audi will get the kill before flashing away. 4 members of WE challenge 3 and still come out even. But here comes the remaining members. Shie is on the chase. The flash, petrifying gaze by Yasma. He sidesteps the knockup, and it's an easy dive. Mystic under the turret will die to the cataclysm and death of Coco. So they trade that over 2 for 3 as the spear narrowly misses. Coco and Swift are going to escort WE out of this side of the map.
There we go. Vici had an extra teleport to the game as well. They had more members in the fight, and they had it for a good reason. Mystic and Missing could have 2v3'd the Nidalee in that situation. So well played from Mystic and Missing in that area of the game. I would say Shie could have been rotated a little bit earlier, but ultimately that was a major win from WE. It could have been better, but take a second look at this. 1 kill here. Then Mystic and Missing move on to the next. The only reason why they don't press forward is 2 TPs from Coco and Audi. But well done from 957 to create that space for from Mystic to work.
And then it's just an easy chase for WE to dive under this turret. Shie and 957 having teleported in, Kandi flanking as well.
This is what I love to see from Shie. Doesn't stand by. They could have worked with the tower and tried to just push the tower down. But he's like, we can get so much more for this. And so while the execution wasn't the best, they still went for the right play. Well done ultimately, and WE massive lead for themselves, 2K ahead.
Already opening up the map as Mystic makes his way down into the bottom lane, looking for that Black Cleaver next. As Martin has got himself the Iceborne Gauntlet, stacking happily away on that tier already. The Archangel's completed on Coco as he looks for that Seraph's Embrace, but Realm Warp onto Mystic. He's walking into it, and immediately they go in for the all-in engage, but Mystic gets absolutely bursted down. He's got no flash, he's got no chance, and Missing in the similar situation as Vici, looking for the plays. They will be able to find it. Coco finds himself the kill.
That was just a good response from Vici. I don't know why WE's lane assignment was to put their dual lane bottom lane in that instance. We just came out of the replay and saw them in the bottom side of the map instead of looking towards top lane tower, which they were looking for last time. Makes no sense. So you're in a longer lane, you're alone for that as well, so sending down the entirety of Vici for this one is an easy decision to make.
And they see this play coming. Realm Warp has a long casting time and animation, but they still get caught as it appears as though we see a fight going on. Martin and Audi trading a kill by turning onto Shie, but look at that, Shintai and Swift are currently dead, and that Cassiopeia is 4-1-0. Meanwhile, Kandi and 957 has been pushing top. They've taken the top tier 1 and are getting damage onto the top tier 2. Audi's on his way there as Mystic back on the map, looking for Martin. Essence Flux, Mystic looking for autos to get the cooldown, but does not find it. No relentless pursuit, and that's 2 top turrets as Vici are wildly striking back and getting smacked down.
And to add to that point, Mystic was just 10 seconds off of his own flash, so could have made the kill actually happen. So I mean, 957 and Kandi have been working at top lane tower for the last minute, so Vici knew that that was a play that was being made. Mid lane play was essentially made while the replay was happening, so Vici right now are scattered. The one good play they made was bottom lane, but then now they just don't have an answer to all of this.
I mean, even coming into the game, we were expecting to see Swift try to affect some of these lanes, look for a gank top, a gank mid, something to unlock anything, to unlock any of his lanes, but so far he's been hard farming in the jungle. Yes, he's 1-1-4 at a 5.0 KDA, but he's not able to do anything off of that. And Vici, now that we're in this mid game, reacting to the plays that WE are setting, that makes it even scarier because now they have to make these decisions under pressure, whereas in the early game, there wasn't as much of a clear onus on them to perform.
Yeah. Clear pattern you can make a point of is the fact that the WE were heavily working towards top side of the map.
Yeah.
Now being able to take down 2 towers top lane, extra waves you could push there and set up towards the red side jungle for Baron. So WE definitely had a strategy in mind that they wanted to have full control of Baron. They have the Cassiopeia as well as the Blade of the Rune King Lucian, so they can burn it incredibly quickly. So the pressure you're talking about, tenfold for WE.
Yeah, and I love that you're mentioning how WE can set up around the Baron. Raz, it's 18.5 minutes into the game. There is no Baron yet.
They're setting up for it. I mean, you just have to, if you're Vici, you know how quickly it can be done. So in the next minute when it comes up, they can just do it immediately.
Especially
so
with
vision
Mountain
control
Dragon.
is important, exactly.
Yeah. Already we're seeing Vici scrambling for vision now as True Shot Barrage is used to try to steal away the red buff from their own jungle as Vici are completely pushed off of this side of the map. Here's that play in the mid lane once again. Shie just finds Swift. He just chases him. He just kills him.
Are
And
you
then the
kidding me?
miasma? No way. Shintai goes in for the knockup but stands on top of the poison, and Shie with the Seraph's Embrace just runs him down. Even sidestepping Martin nearly gets the knockup outplay. Martin by the skin of his chinny chin chin. Skin hair on his chinny chin chin? That's the one. Gosh, I hope he has skin on his chin. That would be real
That was a
uncomfortable
4v1 outplay, Dom.
Yeah.
He literally had 4 people come towards him and he outplayed him. He had 2 of the early kills.
Nearly.
Exactly. So that was incredible out of Shie. It was upsetting that we couldn't see it live, but it just showcases
In the moment, yeah.
how strong his
Wow.
Cassiopeia is.
Almost dodging away from the knockup of Audi, but barely intersecting that hitbox at the last moment. Means that Martin gets the chance to survive. He's at 1-1-4 on his return back with Vici. Of course, we call him the team fight 80 carry for this team, but he absolutely needs to show up big in some sort of upcoming team fight. At least pray that the game goes on a little bit longer so we can get that important second, third item spike.
One thing that we should point out here is the fact that, to your point about teamfight 80 carries here, Martin not having the Muramana available because of the earlier choice of having the Sheen out means that with this Baron being started, he doesn't have the damage to properly start this one up, or at least be able to challenge. Vici just don't have damage.
Oh no, Shie over the wall, the miasma, the pillar, the poison, and he finds the kill. Now he's going 1v2 again, the teleport coming in as Kandi is racing over, but missing him. Mystic follow up onto Martin. He flashes away with a quick QSS. Mystic still sitting on both Summoner Spell Snare onto Shintai as he uses that cleanse to escape. Coco is going to chase it down. True Shot Barrage finds Shie for some damage, but he's escorted by his team. And look at how much health he's healing off of those Twin Fangs as Audi leads them on quite a merry chase.
I don't think Vici wants to chase this.
Oh no, over the wall, Mystic goes back in, looks for Coco and dies. Doesn't have the support of his team as the Pillar of Filth goes down. Audi eats his stuff, but there's no follow-up damage. Shie will finally die to Coco, but WE, they've lost 2 and traded for another 2. Martin has joined the fight. He's getting a lot of damage. They're chasing on the missing the Cataclysm, but Audi goes in and dies just to slam down as it's an all-out melee. Martin finally gets the chance to get the team fight that he needs, running 957 back down. Another grand entrance as 957 goes in with the shield and they find it, and the Zenith Blade. Swift finally respawns out of base and will chase WE back as Martin looks for 1 kill and Swift looks for the other.
Stop fighting! Unreal! That was the longest fight I've seen this month. And it came out that Vici had an ultimate lead of the members standing up. Here's the issue with this. WE had a lead for such a long time in that team fight.
Yeah.
And you know what went wrong, Dom?
Mystic said, I can outplay this.
Mystic and Shie were alone in their turn.
In the Tribush, yeah.
3 people were walking them down on Vici's side, and they're like, well, we're getting chased down by a Rise and he's speeding up. Let's turn this. So they end up turning.
Oh no!
But where's 957 and missing? Completely onto Audi. And so they split up, so they split themselves up. It was essentially a 3v3. That shouldn't have been the case. And so while WE have such a long fight from that point forward, the slows coming out from the Iceborne Gauntlet of Nart is what really slows the pace here and what makes it frustrating for WE to actually get the final end kills here. So for WE, I mean, you have to communicate better than this.
There's got to be something as Martin, with the True Shot Barrage, is able to get some good damage. And of course, Swift respawning out of base and racing all the way to the corner of the map to chase down the kill. Finally puts himself on the board with those 2. But now it's 12 kills to 11. Still a 2,000 gold advantage for WE. And hey, if it fails once, shame on me. If it fails twice, well, even more shame on me. WE returned to the scene of the crime.
Vici should not end up getting any control here. you need essentially another mistake from WE to lose the control around Baron. So you have to wonder how this next fight starts. I liked how Xie started the last one, but because of that, he doesn't have Flash anymore.
Yeah.
You would say he's susceptible to Sintai's Flash ulti, but he has Banshee's Veil. So that's going to be difficult. They need to get that off of him first.
And look at the quick rotation from WE. They just swing mid and break down the tier 2, pushing the minions all the way up to the inhibitor. True Shot Barrage is used, but the cannon goes in. Mystic starting to do some damage against this turret. Miasma prevents Audi from stepping forward. And finally, they back away as the wave is cleared out. But already, WE have done the damage they need. They've got control over the Baron Pit. They're going to walk in, sweep out any wards and traps of Vici Gaming, and then they can just make another play happen. That said, top wave was pushing in for Vici and did now break down that tier 1. So finally, some gold into the Vici coffers.
Yeah, so someone has to clean up that man's top side. And also one thing to take note of is that Vici didn't have any blue trinkets for quite some time. Now they have 2 available. So Martin and Coco can just clear out the mid lane wave, and if there ever is a pressure towards Baron, place down their blue trinkets, they can play a longer game around this Baron now.
Now they have 1 available as Coco immediately uses 1 to try to scout around the Baron. WE is still just playing with that vision. Audi is split pushing with teleport on the other side of the map. He looks to be going for that Bruiser Jarvan with Black Cleaver Tiamat. So not quite the 100-0 burst, but Shintai, oh no, in his first game, he gets caught over the wall. That's a late QSS, but he's able to get out of the Solar Flare stun. As Mystic will use Culling to further push him away, but Xie, he makes the call for the Baron. Blue Trinket will spot this out.
They should have an idea that this is happening. They're getting collapsed on.
Audi has teleport, control ward into the pit. There we go. Call of the Forge Goddess once again. Coco is the target. That's the stopwatch, but Miasma on top of him as 957 goes in and Coco goes down. Martin still split from his team and Audi is still split pushing in the bottom lane, but WE just turned back onto the Baron, ready for round 2.
Vici's goal is clear here. Not to team fight. They've lost their main team fight force in Coco. They want to look for a steal. You got a Sheen on Swift. Here comes the teleport.
Yeah, that's Audi also joining into the fight. The spear gets tossed across and Martin firing in. WE are deep into the pit. Missing looks for it, but there's the stun onto Swift. He goes low and leaps forward into the pit. Finally, no!
He
survives and gets the Baron. Swift is somehow able to get in there. Now Vici are trying to turn and take this fight, but already Audi will go down as Condi 957 and Mystic chase Vici back after Swift. That man was running on fumes.
Hero play. Xie just got his flash up off cooldown. Flashes over the pit so he can execute Swift. Swift so close to death. Remember, he has the Sheen here, so he has the execute. Walks in. I don't even know if he actually executed the Baron before he smited it. So gets the steal away from WE and extends the game.
Here we get to see that again. As you said, Swift on the side. He's even stunned as Xie chases him down, but so low so many times.
I think he got it. He got the Q across. So great from him to be able to get the execute smite off. Really difficult to outsmite that from Nidalee. So well done from him. He should have died earlier. I think Xie is going to be kicking himself because he missed his own Q.
Yeah.
So missing that
would have been all that it took. You saw how little health that Nidalee had, but all of the tempo that WE have been setting up by their aggressive plays, by their mid-game snowballing, suddenly turned around as Vici get a brief respite from the pressure WE have been applying by taking this Baron. Heck, with it on 2 members, they could even look for a push to start breaking down another tier 1.
That's just 2 minutes for Vici to kind of slow the pace of the game. Push out these side laners. You can already see Coco on top and Audi going to bottom lane. So they can make it so WE don't have the time to be able to get these pushes across. WE is still a stronger team based off team fighting, but they won't have the waves to push on.
Already you can see how effective those Baron creeps are at trading back against the regular minions of Team WE. It's still 2 dragons to 1, and the next Ocean is coming up in 45 seconds, so WE just make sure they've got control on that side. But right now, with Vici playing a 1-3-1, Audi pushing in the bottom lane, this looks like WE might have to choose which lane to respond to. That does mean Coco is getting a pretty good push onto 957. He's done a great job of absorbing that pressure recently, but still has to respect the potential dive from Vici.
And one thing that I will say though, to that point, is that WE is playing this well because Coco was pushing up top lane looking for eventual push onto tower. but they immediately moved to threaten him off. So that would have been Coco dying there. You can't just use your ultimate to escape that situation. It's too much CC threat from WE's side. So they're all now converging around mid. I wonder if WE holds their ground here.
They're certainly trying to. That's the miasma. As 957 has grouped with his team, Condi is looking for a way in, but the minions are getting lower and lower. That cannon's starting to get some work. Martin steps up. That Sheen is doing some damage. Pillar of Filth as Martin uses True Shot Barrage on the minion wave. And will look to finally step up and finish this off with the help of that cannon minion. Finally, the tier 1 gets broken down as Missing heads back to base to heal himself back up. Now, the Dragon has spawned, but Vici, they are riding this minion wave forward. This should be the last Baron minion wave, but nobody from WE is there to defend it. The poke is successful, and 2 turrets are taken by Vici Gaming.
Great job from Vici. Gotta wonder when they end up basing. Expect them to take the Dragon first before that ends up happening, but WE, massive pings being made here. I think they're aware that Coco is not there with them, so they could get a fight off if they have the necessary vision.
Now, you just saw the vision of WE. They saw that this was happening. Audi is in the front, looking for a high-value target as Mystic clears out the minion wave and steps up. Artie Swift is working on the Dragon, and WE, not sure that they want it. They found Audi in the front. Well, Swift finishes off the Dragon. True Shot Barrage, but Audi is traded for it. Call of the Forge God. Here comes the Realm Warp, and Coco's able to make it out with Swift. Martin gets hit by the knockup. That's a quick QSS, but it does not reduce the duration. Shintai, grand entrance over the wall. He's got Battle Dance, but Swift has to save him. Okay, forced to take the long way around. And WE used that window to push up to the mid inhibitor turret.
Yeah, they know that Jarvan is down. Vici should not be able to hold this. It depends on how the Trundle Pillar and the Miasma is placed here.
Here comes the next minion wave. That's the Miasma, but a flank from the side. Shintai with a 3-man knockup. Coco's got the spell shield walking forward. Condi goes low. Missing trying to tank with 957, but Mystic and Chie very close to full health. Mystic fancies himself an outplay, but Martin goes mano a mano and forces that dash as WE retreat.
Yeah, no mana left towards Martin. He can throw a few Qs, but nothing for a full-on fight. But it does push WE back. They're going to head back to base so they can face down the control wars. They don't have any at the moment. Maybe they can finish a few items. So Morello is now being completed from Cassiopeia. So for WE's perspective, being able to get back on the map, it's going to take some time before Baron comes up. So topside vision is important once again.
Already, Coco is pushing out on that side of the map along with Swift as Vici look to contest that upcoming Baron. As they got a miracle steal in this last fight. This time, though, the consequences of the fight are completely different. That was 6 minutes ago, and we're now at 3.5 items on Martin. He's got himself the QSS. We're seeing the stopwatch on the way for Coco, not to mention the Void Staff completed.
And that's the result of the Baron steal. If you look at what actually happened in this game for Vici post-Baron steal is that now, as you mentioned, Martin has a few items underneath him that now he can contest fights. In fact, now finished up one shot in Lore's Dominic's regards. So for him, dealing with the front line is much easier. For Audi, he's going towards his GA. Doesn't have it completed just yet, but has the BF sword, chainmail, good enough to be able to just jump into fight and have that immediate impact. So major questions to WE if they can keep their backline alive. I think Missing should be taking a lot more damage, so he is not a true tank for them to rely on.
Now we see a potential assassination being set up by Swift and Audi as Mystic. He's looking for control over his red buff, but Vici group up and deny it as they manage to push in bottom with a quick lunge into the side of WE's map. They force WE to back up and defend because losing a fight here means losing complete control over the Baron pit. Making their way out of base, though, it's another Zeal from Mystic. And that is still 4 items like we said on the Cassiopeia. Somehow, Vici, despite losing the early game and falling behind even more in the mid game, we're able to stall it out and bring it to a late game phase. We've got 4 items on the Ezreal, 3.5 items on Coco. Swift has finished off his own Zhonya's and Athens, and there's the GA now finished on that Jarvan. Somehow, Vici have been able to weather the storm. Definitely. And their double tier comp is coming online.
And one thing to make note of is that Martin, because of how far behind, didn't go for the second tier on his own build.
Yeah.
So he might not do it now. It seems a little bit too late. Just going to go down to more defensive options for him. So while it seems like they are scaling, the only real late game scaling options is going to be based off around Coco. So I want to see what Coco can do when the game goes on, how he can deal with going front to back. It might be difficult, especially with double stone plates they're facing in the front line of WE. So they would have to be a little bit more creative. I'm looking towards how Swift can play out these fights. He plays a little more defensively, healing with his Athene's Unholy Grail. or if he actually tries to be more of an assassin as he's building up the Sheen, eventually going to be a Lich Bane.
It's absolutely going to get real big. But now Coco's out of his space with that Zanya. Swift steps up, makes it over the pillar as the dance for vision has officially begun between these two. Vici firing shot after shot as Xie is able to heal himself up off of the Scuttle Crab. And Vici are getting very close to the pit, but they are running out of wards.
WE just wants to fight. I mean, they've been trying to force these fights through Trundle pillars, very hard to do. Missing has not been finding proper ultis to get inside. But Xie has been the creative one, using his flash oftentimes to get into the back. It needs to be a 957. He's been with the front line and he's going in now.
That's a Call of the Forge God. Will go wide. Vici group up just to the side of it as WE are actually riding this minion wave straight into the turret. Now Shintai's over the wall. He's got himself flash, quickness, entrance, but already Mystic walks up to the turret. He's getting some hits. Audi drops himself the standard. Mystic decides not to continue going forward. WE just playing the map. That's the Blade of the Ruined King on the Missing. He's pulled down to below half health. The flash from Mystic. Arcane Shift as he shifts backwards. No True Shot Barrage, but Missing using the Zeke's Convergence.
Vici should have pressure around Baron now. That is ulti off of 957, using it to zone the enemy team so they can get towards mid lane tower. Eventually that didn't turn into anything. So for WE, Missing doesn't have HP. You don't have to engage for 957. What will Vici do off this? They don't have a strong burn on towards Baron, so they would have to fight, but it would be off of Audi. So you can see how difficult for these teams is right now because they can't really get a fight across. 957 isn't playing it properly. He isn't coming in on flank. That's an issue with them. And for Vici, they just don't have it right. Like Shintai right now is not oftentimes getting the vision down with Swift.
And take a look at this, 25 seconds until the Elder Dragon, but WE return right back to that Baron. Missing once again is split off as he's trying to zone away Martin. Zenith Blade as he zones Swift away, and Teleport used and I believe cancelled by Audi as he just decides to walk up instead as True Shot Barrage clears out the minion wave, and WE again, Vici call their bluff. Looking real dangerous as it's a constant dance back and forth. Elder Dragon is up, but still the game is around the Baron because that unlocks the inhibitors. You can see the pings now from Vici.
WE have TP advantage. I understand what they're doing, trying to hard force the fight. Incredible, let's go.
Mystic's over the wall. He pops the Banshees, but again, the Call of the Forge God goes right down the middle, not knocking anyone up.
This is really forced from WE when they can just send 957 bottom lane with the TP lead that they have. Sure, Coco would be able to answer, but that's a major CC engage force from Coco, or at least damage as well, that they wouldn't have in the 4v4.
Look at this, Vici taking a page out of WE's book. They push up the minion wave to claim control over the mid lane. The earlier tier 2 take paying off as Vici push all the way up to the inhibitor and force WE to pull back. The side lanes are in control of Vici as well, and both top and bottom pushing in. WE, they're running on borrowed time as Vici make their way to the Elder.
A lot of indecisiveness just based off of how the previous series have gone on, but in this game, a lot of it's gone back and forth. Vici don't want to lose a game in which they fought hard for it, but losing a Baron, but getting an Elder Dragon. What a trade.
Absolutely a trade, as both teams seem to sign off on it. As the wave gets pushed in, Xie will be able to pick that up. Coco's continuing to push in bottom. Mystic decides to head mid and not pick that up. But like we said, it's Baron on WE versus Elder on Vici.
The only thing else to take away from Vici here, now it empowers a few of their own. I mean, the fact that they've got a few dragons getting up to that Elder Dragon is excellent, but they have the poke off of Ezreal. The poke on Ezreal is going to be incredibly important to see who it lands on because it was already dealing a lot of damage on the Missing. That's what they're looking for. For WE, they were already a strong team-fighting team. They may be mid-range, so starting the fight's going to be difficult. But if they can get it, they should win the fight regardless. We'll have to see where 957 comes in. He's in the bottom lane, but he should look for more flanking positions. They have strong control wards from bottom lane to mid. They shouldn't be an easy, hard venture.
There's still that vision in the Baron pit from WE after their take, but Vici just push up into the Baron up wave of WE and keep them backed up. Now with that Elder Dragon buff, the aspect of the dragon, it is 135 true damage at 3 stacks, 2 from the Elemental, 1 from the Elder. So that's absolutely still going to hurt for every tick of damage that they take, but the wave actually gets pushed in as WE fall all the way back to their inhibitor turret to try and reclaim ground. They need to start looking at some of these side waves, though. Like you said, playing around 957 in the side lane. Even if Vici get a chance to answer it, it's quite dangerous if Vici find themselves, or sorry, if WE find themselves in a 5v5 team fight against a now fully scaled Ryze and Ezreal.
And so for Vici, now that they've got their first gambit of control, first time they've fully controlled the map with the Elder Dragons they've been pushing through and the waves that they have, I would say right now get a lot more vision control. Right now it's on Shintai. The rest of them just have items. All of them have just items here and there, so it's only really Shintai that can place the wards down. It's unfortunate to see, but play around the Rakan so he can find a primary target. It's not going to be their option now that WE's pushing through mid. We'll have to see if they can get any poke on Martin. Martin's not really getting anything here.
Yeah, here's the Baroned up minion wave. Finally, they finish off the inhibitor that they were able to chip down earlier. Mystic and Xie are kiting around. They know that there's a lot of harass and engage as a good spear takes a chunk out of 957's health bar. He does have the Ocean Dragon and that Gargoyle Stoneplate if a fight were to break out, but you don't want to risk it. As the wave pushes in, and 957, is that the Warmogs? That is now completed. Look at that health go right back up. Gotta love me some Orin passive. True Shot Barrage to catch the bottom wave, which has been prepped, but there goes Call of the Forge God. This is the team fight. Martin gets knocked up. He's still got both sums. Miasma prevents his entry as WE look onto this inhibitor. Shintai is right in the middle of things, but WE are already all split up. If they group up, that's a prime target, but the inhib is finished off. Another Miasma. Shintai still can't go in. Martin looks to chase a little bit with the Iceborne Gauntlet as Missing eats a spear. Another hit from that Mystic shot as Xie tries to heal up off these wolves. Another wave pushing bottom, but only 15 seconds on the Baron. Kandi is split. Vici go for the chase, but Kandi gets the chance to group up. Eats another spear, but Destiny engaged. They're looking for him now. He goes low, uses the gargoyles. They find the kill onto Shintai as he goes too far without a team. Audi follows up, but Mystic kites it back with the Cataclysm. Swift dives in. Another stopwatch as he goes golden. The fight breaks out as Audi flashes away, and somehow Mystic tries to outplay this, but Martin pops off with Coco, and Vici win the fight, acing Team WE.
And these are long death timers. 40 seconds is easy for them to move with the wave that they have here. Cannon wave. This should be game. Insane team fight. Even bringing in, wait a minute, they didn't bring any minions. Oh, they brought a few.
They brought two.
They got them.
That's all they need.
They got it.
Audi's nice and tanky. Finally, they clear off that minion wave, and the rest of the minions get in there. But like you said, the death timers are ticking away. Those minions are moving nice and slow as they were stalled out. It's only the one. Playing with their health bars, but the Sheen procs are very high as Vici turn onto the Nexus turrets and break down the Nexus. Like you said, Raz, Vici chase it down and take game one.
That was such an insane comeback from Vici. Had no way to come back into the game, but the Baron steal was step one. Waiting for time for Mystic, of course, scale off on the Lucian. He wanted to start the fights mid-range, couldn't deal with the Martin poke that was constantly just chipping at the rest of the lineup. So ultimately the poke coming through, the trades for Vici to find themselves in there, so they were team fight ready. The last team fight was crucial, and it was Audi that got the start off with the Rakan as well.
Finally finding the engage that he needed. Audi following up with the 3-man knock-up, plus the Cataclysm to keep them locked down and keep them pinned in the corner. I mean, take a look at that gold graph. WE were running the game up until 25 minutes, and that's exactly where that Baron steal happened.
And so this is more of a criticism to WE because they should have had this game once again. They have a lot of avenues to stop Vici from going in those team fights, even though Vici has the Jarvan that have double pillar with the Orin pillar, the Trundle pillar,
and the
You have the Cassiopeia Miasma. They utilized it getting the mid lane inhibitor to just stop Vici from coming through. And then you saw when it all started, when Kandi actually separated himself from the team when they were disengaged. That's a go sign for the rest of the team of Vici to at least try and start for something. And it all happened in such a slim corridor. WE didn't need to get in there. They only really got in that corridor because they were helping Kandi come back and join the team. So these are just really weird, small bits of communication that just shouldn't have, shouldn't be lost.
I mean, WE very clearly had a good game plan from the get-go. They had that Lucian, they had the all-engage composition, late game insurance of a Cassiopeia just in case things go a little bit too long. They had that massive tank of Ornn with great engage of the Leona Ornn. But like you said, it was the decisiveness, or I suppose the lack of decisiveness from WE to play around that and effectively close out the game before Vici could get a chance to come back in.
And I think it ultimately comes down to the execution. This is a great example of that, of 957 and Missing continuing to go on towards Audi when it was Shea and Condi and Mystic that wanted to just change. I think that was a good call to just move back to the 3 people that were following you, but bringing the entire team to that point. You don't have to have 2 people chase a Jarvan with sub 20% HP if this is the call that's going to be made. This is one of many errors that were made from WE, but thankfully for Vici, I think Vici found those opportunities to come back into the game. Martin on the Iceborne Gauntlet Ezreal picked apart WE just based off those minute issues. It was mostly off of Martin that was able to find those teamfight wins.
Yeah, Martin was actually doing a remarkable amount of damage by the end of the game, though his positioning wasn't spectacular. There's a reason that we are calling him the team fight AD carry, because in an all-out 5v5 melee, it doesn't really matter where the AD carry is positioned as long as he's not face-to-face with the Mundo, but that's why the Ezreal is so powerful for him, because it allows him to reposition so consistently in the fight and chase those targets down.
And then that in-game team fight. One I really love to point out is the fact that the Jarvan ultimate made it so it's incredibly easy for Ezreal to work on. Got a 5-man Ezreal ulti off, and then he was able to just chuck in Qs whenever possible, had no fear of anyone trying to get him dead, because the rest of WE had to focus on
defending and protecting.
Defending themselves, ultimately taking down Audi, the major tanks, before even touching the Ezreal. So it gave him a lot of time to just place down the damage that he needed to do.
There was one actually really cool moment where, again, we talked about Mystic before the game and how he's playing remarkably high level right now. When the Cataclysm came down and everyone all-inned on WE in the corridor, Mystic actually dashed away from Audi, so still had the presence of mind not to group up with his teammates and was putting out lots of damage by the end of the fight, whereas Shea was stuck in the pit. That being said, it didn't really matter because they were still in a corridor about yay wide, and it was just Ezreal chasing it down with Ryze like, I love AoE, this is great!
You're right, I mean, the execution is good from Team WE, the mechanics are there from Shea. A lot of it was just the players of WE and the team fights doing very well, but the setting of it, how you set up those fights, didn't actually happen. For 957, for so long to be missing his ultimate and then not being placed in flank positions really hurt WE when they went for this Baron. And so this was a good example, missing Q from Shea, but it shouldn't come down to it. It shouldn't be multiple members trying to, I see, right? Shouldn't be multiple members not being communicating where the Nidalee is, who has the kill on her, found a way, a pathway into the pit and get the execute off of it. So well done for Swift. Once again, finding the opportunity to get the game back in his favor. But WE, they were talking so heavily about communication last season, last split, and it's just faltering now.
12 health he dropped down to before getting into the pit and smiting. Then he took a second hit and walked away at, I think, 20 health before he finally died.
Yeah.
It's just... It's tragedy. You hate to see that happen when your team WE and you've been setting up this mid-game composition and controlling all this vision, all of this tempo around the Baron, and then it just gets denied by the hero play from Swift.
So there's a lot of good here from WE. Like the fact that it happens again and again, but there is a lot of good. Their first 20 minutes was spectacular. Like setting up towards Baron, picture perfect. The issue was once they finally got the pressure down, they couldn't rush it because Vici was actually playing well in defending the red side jungle. Then you just have to get a flank going. Some people will say 50-50. I don't agree with the 50-50 route. I think that you have enough members that can start a fight. Orin needs to be able to place a proper placement for himself. So he rounds out around red side jungle with a vision that they do have, and they can play around him. He wasn't as creative as they should have been.
Even so, we can see that WE still have the right idea, because when they tried that play earlier, Shea flashed the wall, found Swift as he was looking for a ward, and killed him beforehand. Even in that play, he flashed the wall, found Swift, missed the Noxious Blast, and 12 health. It was that close down to the execution for Team WE. So we're still seeing them play with the right idea, just it's the execution, which is hard to believe for the team that went to semis and worlds.
Yeah, I would say that it's interesting that you make a point of execution. I think that Shea is, in this series, this game, he did a lot of good for himself. And while that 1Q Noxious Blast is something that people will focus on, the entire point of the 1v4, the potential that he was going for, got 2 kills off of that. In that situation, flashing forward because there wasn't a proper setup in that situation, sure, people will point out the fact that he didn't get the kill there, but I mean, the team themselves should have set up that position a little better. So a lot of it, and I hope that they don't go in the back and point out those errors. another one of just Condi being separated, so they have to try and group around him. So it's all on what you're actually saying to the team. Why are you mispositioning in that fact? Teamfight execution, the mechanics are there for them. And so this was great from Vici. Ultimate across the board. And so finally, just you can see Martin finds that advantage, jumps right in and cleans up the fight.
Yeah, Coco paving the way for him by flashing forward and getting the spell flux onto 3. And as he sees the abilities being used, using the late Zanyas to deny the damage and give the opening for Martin to chase it up. Again, Vici finding the opportunity, that needle in a haystack for the team. And of course, setting themselves up with the team composition by taking that scaling. Like we said, they had the opportunities to take control of the game from minute 1 to the end of the game with how they set up based off of that team composition. The early game didn't quite pay off for them with Swift on his signature Nidalee. He looked for more of a hard farm route to set himself up for damage later on. But it was ultimately Swift who stole the Baron that got Vici back in the game. So do we give him a pass on that farming early game?
Look, I actually think the early farming was because a lot of WE's early vision actually just, like, for instance, if Condi cleared out his full top side, went towards bottom side, what is Nidalee going to do? I think the farming route's good just because there's no action. You can get top side, bottom lane, and you can't really try and focus on the enemy jungler because he's actually pathed away from you. So I think his early game was fine. The steal is exceptional. So I mean, if you're going to give somebody an MVP, it's either going to be Martin or it's going to be Swift.
There's a reason we call it a hero play, right? But that being said, MVP will go to Martin and his return to Vici Gaming. 5, 1, and 12. Barely missing a single kill of the kill participation of Vici.
45% damage percentage, so almost half of his entire team. Damage, of course, he's on Ezreal, so the poke will apply. But the poke stopped a lot of the plays from WE. Missing was oftentimes looking for a fight, but then was getting completely poked out. So I thought that Martin coming in, first time in a long time, exceptional performance.
Yeah, absolutely was able to close it out for Vici. That said, we've got Game 2 coming at you. Don't go anywhere. The LPL will be right back.
危机眼中的奇迹是用熏血浇灌过后的开花结果。